At this point, I am mostly active as an improviser and sort of with these really collaborative projects where what I like to do on the bassoon is sort of useful. And a lot of my initial concerns as a composer, or sort of how I first started thinking of composing, were very much from a performer's perspective. And I was trying to I was writing music for myself and for my good friends and collaborators, and so I wanted our engagement as performers to be kind of central to the piece. So I did a lot of sort of open forum things and graphic scores, and that kind of was my entree into composing in a way. And I would say that while that's important to me, it's not the primary thing at this point. It's like other aesthetic things are more in the front of my mind. But I think that's always kind of in there, is what's it going to be like to perform this? Right now I'm working on a couple of projects that are involving different methods of transcription in a way, or this idea of taking an extra musical source or influence and bringing that in like on a very foundational level to the musical, compositional, sonic process. And I think that that's an exciting development for me, because I've had these extra musical influences for a long time, but feel like now I'm getting to a better place with how to actually really use them, and not just sort of have them be this inspirational flash at the beginning of the process of composing, but rather like let it inform the whole piece. So last year I wrote this string quartet where I used the sound of the opening scene from Once Upon a Time in the West as a first structural layer, and I transcribed the sounds of not the soundtrack, because there's not any music and there's barely any dialogue. It's just like footsteps and floorboard creaks and wind, and then some other sounds from the film. And so that was a really important project for me, just conceptually. And then I wrote another piece still kind of working with some of that transcription, but just in a blown up kind of way, where I just took a smaller part and then stretched it. And anyway, and the point is not that these pieces are about the film, but rather that there's something in this film that I was really attracted to and wanted to get at with my composition. And so I sort of did this investigation of it. Working with Anthony Braxton was very influential in sort of this ethos of how you see a project through. So he always sort of both demonstrated and would almost explicitly say, like, okay, so you write a piece, you get it performed, you record it, you make a record, you tour it, and then you've actually done the project. You don't just write a piece and have it played once and just call it a day. Like that's not, so, and that, you know, probably does come from this sort of idea of working with, as a performer and being out there and putting your music out in the world. And so that's the goal. It's not just like sitting at home and writing a piece by yourself, but rather like making the music available. And because like that's, yeah, so that, yeah, putting the music out in the world is sort of the idea. And sometimes that's best done through a tour. Sometimes it's better through one really well done concert, or sometimes it's through a record. And also records are just sort of practically useful for getting shows as a performer and a band. So, you know, but also it's like you work on the pieces and you're like, okay, I feel that they're at a stage where I know what they're about and what they sort of, what's almost maybe not the best way or their best, you know, sort of realization, but like a core realization of the piece, and you want to, or the song, or however you think of it, and then you want to get that down and be able to move on. So it's sort of like, okay, it allows you to kind of put something to rest in a way.